Good fences make good neighbors. Miles to go before I sleep. You know the lines.
Oh, yeah. The one less traveled by. They're almost baked into the language now.
Exactly. And today on the deep dive, we're looking behind those lines. We want to explore the life of Robert Frost, the man who wrote them.
It's quite a story. Born way out west, actually. San Francisco, March 26, 1874.
Right. Not the New Englander from day one. He passed away January 29th, 1963 in Boston. But he really became the voice of rural New England, didn't he?
Absolutely. His real genius was capturing how ordinary people talked, that American colloquial speech, and using it to show these, well, realistic moments in everyday life.
And people notice. I mean, 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry, you don't get much more honored than that in 20th century American poetry.
No, he was really at the pinnacle.
So our mission today really is to understand the experiences and the moments that shaped him. Who was the man behind Mending Wall or Stopping by Woods?
Well, like you said, it starts unexpectedly. California. His father, William Prescott Frost Jr., was a journalist, had ambitions out there, moved the family to San Francisco in 73. But things took a sad turn pretty early on. His father died of tuberculosis in 1885. Robert was still young.
Oh, wow. So that forced a change.
A huge one. His mother, Isabel Moody Frost, she took Robert and his sister Jeannie back east. They ended up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, living with their father's parents.
Okay, so a major upheaval early in life, from California to Massachusetts, and his mother had to support them.
Yeah, she taught school in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, while Robert and Ginny were growing up there in Lawrence with the grandparents.
And he did well in school, didn't he? I remember reading he was co-valedictorian.
That's right, yeah. Graduated high school in 1892 and shared the top spot with Eleanor White.
Ah, Eleanor White, a very important name in his life.
Extremely. They were already in love, and they shared this deep passion for poetry. It wasn't just a teenage romance, it was intellectual, too.
And he was already writing seriously, even back then.
Oh, yes. He actually got his first poem professionally published in 1894, My Butterfly, an elegy. So the dedication was there early.
Interesting. So after high school, college.
Well, he went to Dartmouth, briefly. Eleanor went to St. Lawrence University. But Frost, he didn't even finish a year at Dartmouth. Found the whole academic routine, not for him.
Speaks to that independent streak, maybe?
Yeah,
Wanting to find his own way?
I think so. And he and Eleanor got married not long after in 1895. So they're starting this life together, built around poetry, but, well, reality hits.
Right. Making a living as a poet, especially then, must have been incredibly tough.
It was really difficult financially. He tried teaching, tried farming. Neither was really successful, honestly.
And they were starting a family amidst all this.
Yes, and sadly, with a lot of heartbreak. They had 6 children in total. But Elliot, their first son, died of cholera before he was even 4. And another daughter, Eleanor Bettina, died just days after birth. Later, Marjorie died young after childbirth, and Carol tragically took his own life.
Oh my goodness, that's so much loss.
It really is. Only Leslie and Irma survived him. You have to think that kind of repeated early experience with death. It surely finds its way into the poems, even the ones that seem simpler on the surface. That undercurrent is often there.
It certainly adds a layer of depth, thinking about that background. Did he try formal education again?
He did, actually. Went to Harvard in 1897 for a couple of years, but again, left without a degree. The standard academic path just wasn't his path.
So he's searching, trying different things. And then comes the move to the farm in Derry, New Hampshire, around 1900. This feels like a really formative time.
Oh, absolutely crucial. That decade, 1900 to 1909, living on that farm, raising poultry, that's where so much of the Frost we know took shape.
He was teaching nearby too, right?
Yes, at Pinkerton Academy in Derry. So he was really immersed in that rural community. And interestingly, he became quite the keen botanist during these years.
Ah, so that close observation of nature in his poems, it came from real hands-on experience.
Definitely. It wasn't just casual observation. He was
Yeah.
studying it. And it was here in Derry that he really started to craft that poetic persona, the sort of plain-spoken New England farmer, the rural sage.
The voice we recognize, but he wasn't getting published much yet.
No, that was the frustration. He was writing poems, many that would later become famous, but magazines and publishers just weren't interested.
So imagine that he's approaching 40, he's been working at this for years, developed this unique voice, and nothing. What does he do?
He makes a radical decision, a really bold move. By 1911, he's had enough of the discouragement. He sells the dairy farm.
Wow.
And in August 1912, he moves the entire family to London.
To England. Why London?
He believed, or maybe just hoped, that English publishers would be more receptive. London was this buzzing literary center at the time. You had modernism bubbling up, new voices being heard. He figured maybe they'd give him a shot.
And he took his poems with him.
carried a whole stack of unpublished work, basically his life's work up to that point. It was a huge gamble, nearly 40 years old, moving his family overseas with no guarantee.
Did it pay off?
Amazingly, yes. And quickly, the English were more receptive. He got some crucial early support from Ezra Pound, believe it or not.
Ezra Pound. Interesting connection.
Yeah, Pound helped champion him. And within a year, in 1913, Frost publishes his first book, A Boy's Will.
Finally. And it had some now famous poems in it.
Oh, yes. Poems like Storm Fear, The Tuft of Flowers, Mowing, poems that became staples in, literature classes for generations.
And that wasn't all, was it? Another book followed pretty quickly.
Right on its heels, North of Boston came out in 1914. And that one, well, that was the real breakthrough.
That's the one with Mending Wall, The Death of the Hired Man.
Home burial after apple picking, just packed with some of his most enduring, iconic works. It was like the dam finally broke.
So suddenly, this unknown American poet is making waves in London. How did word get back to the U.S.?
Well, people noticed in London's literary circles, and American writers and critics visiting London heard about him. They brought the news back.
Anyone in particular champion him back home?
Yes, a really key figure was Amy Lowell, the Boston poet. She found his work in England in 1914, loved it, and basically became his advocate in America. She wrote this glowing review of North of Boston.
So she really helped build the anticipation for him back in the States.
Absolutely. And then, sort of ironically, world events intervene. World War I breaks out.
Right. So that prompts him to come back.
Exactly. The Frost returned to the United States in 1915, and the timing, in terms of his career, was kind of perfect.
How so?
Because thanks in part to Amy Lowell's efforts, people were ready for him. Henry Holt had already published the American edition of North of Boston in 1914, even before Frost returned, and it was a bestseller.
A bestseller? For poetry? That's unusual.
Very unusual. So Holt quickly brought out the American edition of A Boy's Will, too. And just like that, Frost went from decades of obscurity to being famous. Magazines wanted his poems. He was in demand.
What a turnaround.
Yeah.
From struggling farmer to literary star in just a few years. Incredible.
It really is. And he settles back into New England life, right? Buys a farm in Franconia, New Hampshire in 1915.
Back to his landscape. But he needed more income than just poetry, I imagine.
Oh, sure. Poetry alone, even for a famous poet, wasn't always enough. So he started lecturing, doing readings, and took on part-time teaching positions. He was associated with Amherst College, the University of Michigan, for many years, between 1916 and 1938.
Do you think those academic connections influenced his work at all, or was he pretty set in his style by then?
That's a good question. I think it mainly provided, financial stability and a way to engage intellectually. He always maintained that sort of independent rural persona, but he was definitely sharp and enjoyed the exchange of ideas. It probably kept him connected.
And the books kept coming. Mountain Interval in 1916.
Yes, that solidified his reputation further. And then came the Pulitzers, the first for New Hampshire in 1923.
And 3 more after that. Collected poems, A Further Range, A Witness Tree, 4 Pulitzers.
Yeah, an amazing achievement. It just cemented his place. And there are other important books, too, like West Running Brook, Steeplebush, and his last collection, In the Clearing, in 1962.
He kept writing for a long time.
Yeah.
Even after more personal tragedy. His wife, Eleanor, died in 1938, didn't she?
She did, a huge loss for him, personally and probably creatively, given their shared passion. But he did continue. He remained this major public figure. Poet in residence at Harvard, then Dartmouth, then back to Amherst. Honors kept coming.
Served as poetry consultant to the Library of Congress.
Right, late 50s.
And that incredible moment at JFK's inauguration in 1961. Reciting The Gift outright.
Yeah, the sun was bright. He couldn't quite read the new poem he'd written, so he recited the older one from memory. It was powerful, really showed his status as, America's poet.
It truly did.
Yeah.
So when we boil it down, what are the absolute core elements of his style, his themes?
Well, it comes back to what we said at the start, that focus on rural New England life, ordinary people, everyday situations, and that masterful use of American colloquial speech, making poetry sound like people actually talk.
Okay, let's dig into that colloquial speech a bit more. It's not just simple words, is it? There's an art to it.
Oh, absolutely. It's about the rhythm, the cadence of natural speech. Think about The Death of the Hired Man. The conversation between Mary and Warren feels so utterly real. The pauses, the way they interrupt each other slightly.
How did he achieve that on the page?
Techniques like enjambment, breaking a line in the middle of a phrase or sentence so it flows over like natural speech might. He also had an amazing ear for the specific words, the dialect of that region. It all adds up to this feeling of authenticity. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly skilled.
So we followed him from California through Massachusetts, the dairy farm years, the big gamble in London, fame, honors, losses. It's quite a life's journey.
It really is a story of Incredible perseverance, actually. Years and years of writing without recognition, sticking to his vision, and then finally, the world caught up.
It's a reminder, isn't it, that creative work doesn't always follow a straight path.
Not at all. His story shows that dedication, that deep connection to your subject matter, your craft, it can eventually find its audience, even after a long wait. And the impact can be profound and lasting.
So as you think about Robert Frost after this deep dive, maybe consider this. How do those poems about stone walls or snowy woods or birch trees, how do they use the ordinary to talk about something much bigger? About life, choices, nature, how we connect or don't connect.
Right.
Maybe go back to a poem you thought you knew. Knowing a bit more about his life, the struggles, the losses, the landscapes, what new layers might you find there now?